Hello, and welcome to Fine, I'll Talk About It, the podcast where we say the quiet parts out loud. Real talk, no fluff, no fake positivity. I'm your host, Danielle Young, and today I am joined by Pete, host of Pete versus Anxiety, the mental health juggernaut. Pete, welcome to Fine, I'll Talk About It. How are you?
I'm doing good. How about yourself? It's good seeing you again. I'm so glad. I enjoyed having you the first time on the show. I'm so excited for you to start this podcasting journey. Honestly, I am.
Thank you. Yeah. I am excited to have you as my very first guest because I was so freaking nervous going into this. And I'm like, it's Pete. It's cool. I can mess up and it'll be okay.
Listen, after 200 episodes in the first season of the show, I could tell you right now, you're gonna have those days where it's just hell breaks loose, and other days it'll go just fine. But at the end of the day, it'll be okay, man. It's just it's podcasting. Like, you learn as you go. It's a lot of people don't know what to do in the beginning. A lot of people understand these things, and
Yeah.
I love passing the knowledge on to you guys. You and a couple other people I know. Like, I always like to add insight to everything because I'm like, listen, I went through these things. I could tell you, like, I've had moments where the shit was going hit the fan. There's a few times we had some shit hit the fan. Honestly, like, we had some crazy moments happen. But it's been great. I love it. I've met a lot of new people along the way, and this new season I'm working on now is just it's crazier. We're into December, like 26th of December right now. Currently, at the time of this recording, I have already pre-recorded and set up all the way to then. We are booking into February. I actually think Monday, the 13th of February, I believe it's the next date I just had somebody book for. So the show
Wow.
is humming off the last time we spoke.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm so happy for you. Like, I liked being on your show. I like your show a lot.
Thank you.
We talk about mental health, and not everybody likes to talk about mental health, and it's not a popular topic, but I feel like it's something that absolutely needs to be talked about.
I think it's a tough
Everyone
topic.
is, yeah, it is. And, there's so much stigma around it, and there's so much shame around it that people just, they're so afraid to even say that they have a problem.
You,
So,
you're not wrong though, because there's a lady I interviewed named Maddie Andrews. She was on 17 medications. She said she started telling her story to people on social media, and their responses were, "Oh, go to a hospital, go to the mental hospital. You need to do this. You're crazy." Like, things she's already experienced and already know based on the story. She's just very little telling you that she probably could tell you on a social media setting. But it's crazy though, because it's like we all deal with these things. We go to the doctor every day. You deal with all these other problems. Why can't you talk about your mental health? Because everybody stigmatizes it so bad that they start calling you crazy the minute you start talking about things like schizophrenia. Everybody thinks you automatically start, hallucinating, which most people don't. It's this crazy thing is that people just assume what they think they don't know, or they go to the internet and find these people that are posting all this crap out there, and it's like, like, how do you believe all this shit? Because all of it's most is misinformation. People don't know what half these people don't know what they're talking about. If you start agreeing with them and you start drinking the Kool-Aid proverbially, you're buying into this shit. And you're not even looking at, like, you don't check resources for these people. Like, okay, so what's your background that you're giving me advice on how to do these things? Like, have you put the work in? Most of them, no. They just pick the hot button issues and like, oh, hey, listen, let's talk about this month. And that's the shit that pisses me off. Like, these awareness months are great. But these videos of these people just making a little, I'm going to take it and run with it because it's a hot topic button. Okay, well, what about after that month? Like, let's continue the conversation. Then you don't want to have that conversation because, one, you don't know what you're talking about. Two, you're trying to just get the buzz off it because you just want the social media content. Oh, well, I just want all these followers. But then when people realize you're fake and you lose all those followers, then you blame everybody else because it's not your fault, or you just don't want to talk about a taboo subject because like when suicide comes up, woo, man, you better believe
oh,
people start running for the doors.
oh yeah, that is definitely a very sensitive subject. And I think the thing around suicide though is people don't know how to talk about it. I
I
feel like
think
there's a right way and there's a wrong way, and most people are just stuck in the wrong way. And it's that fear that comes up. Am I going to say the wrong thing? Am I going to do the wrong thing? There's so much surrounding suicide.
you're
And
100% correct. Okay, so in that situation, if you're listening and you run into a suicidal situation, telling you right now, listen to what this person is saying to you. Getting them to
mhm,
talk is the best thing you could do in that moment. If you feel
yeah.
like it's getting to the point and you think they have a plan, ask them, hey, listen, are you considering suicide? Like, don't be afraid to ask them because, one, you could scare them into thinking, okay, well, hold on. Am I really thinking about this? And two, if they say yes, call 988 and keep them on the phone with you. And then you can hand them off to somebody that can handle the situation. But at the end of the day, like if someone comes to you and says something, make sure you're listening. Put down the goddamn phone, whatever. If you're looking at them visually, look at them and listen to what they're saying. Do not do any of those things where you're not paying attention, because the next time they may not come to you and tell you anything. And, I think a lot of people, when it comes to suicide, that's the issue. It's like they don't know what to do, or they panic. Like a lot of times there's not a lot you can do. You can listen. There's a starter.
Yeah.
How about do the one thing that a lot of us do? We all listen to music. You listen to the radio. Listen to your friend when they reach out to you and say something. Like I've had people reach out to me I don't even know, tell me, Pete, I'm considering suicide. And I said, well, hold up, pump the brakes here. Let's talk about it. Listen, tell me what the problem is. And and a lot of times they just want somebody to hear what the thoughts that are going on in their head. Now, when you start talking about these things, a lot of times they'll realize how crazy this really sounds, that they're saying like, whoa, am I really considering this? And sometimes they'll scare themselves, but other times you do need to be concerned if they do have a plan. Ask them, hey, do you got a plan? And see
Right.
what they say. If they start telling you, oh, I got a plan, I know how. Now this is where you start going to that territory where Daniel just said you get a little nervous, because now you're like, oh, stay calm. And like I said, 988 is there for that reason. Like, if you're afraid,
Right.
hell, even if you had any problems, just call 988. If you think that you need somebody to talk to yourself, like call and talk to these people. These people are trained for that reason. That's why they're there. Or if you may know somebody that needs help, go to like the helphub.co. Lisa Sugarman spent a lot of time putting this thing together for you all. You can go in and find all these different great resources of things where you can find all this stuff. Like it can lead you to what you're looking for. Or if you don't even know, find a therapist and start talking to them, and get somebody to analyze what's going on at this situation. At least see what you're dealing with your friend. If they start talking like that, don't call them crazy. Don't treat them like
Yeah.
they're crazy. And for God's sakes, when people tell you they've attempted suicide, stop making them feel like they're the racist person in the room, proverbially. You know what I'm saying? Like stop making them feel different because they've made a choice that you don't agree with or you don't understand. Because I think we too much time when it comes to stigmatizing people. When you hear people say they've attempted, the shit gets real weird. Like you make people feel really awkward, because then it's like, well, what do I don't want to say the wrong thing to them. There's
Right.
nothing you could say or do that's going to make that person change their mind. If they've already decided that's what they're going to do, they're going to do it regardless.
Yeah. And it's unfortunate,
Hmm.
that we're in that society that doesn't support people with mental health issues,
It's
you
crazy though,
know?
but they like to cite it though. Like, take for instance, the recent thing, the Dallas Cowboys player that was 24 that ended up taking his life, unfortunately.
Yeah.
This young man was struggling. His girlfriend quotes, "Oh, well, he's had a history." Okay, so what were you doing to help him, though? That's like a lot of questions for me come up when people say things like that. Well, they mention mental. Okay, so what were you doing for him? Yes, he lost his mom, so he's obviously dealing with a lot of grief, and that's a tough subject too, because you don't know what to say. That falls right in the category of suicide. Like, what do I say? Most times, just tell people you're there for them. You know what I mean? But if you're sitting there,
Yeah.
you're telling a paper, well, he had a history of it. Okay, cool. He had a history of it. So what were you doing to help him then? If you knew he was struggling, my thing I thought was a little weird is that the cops tried to do a routine traffic stop. Now, did she call and tell him, hey, listen, this is his car. He's having a freak out moment. He has, what I mean? Did she do anything to try and help in that situation? A lot of questions that come up with that for me. It's crazy though, because he's 24, man. We lost him at 24 when we could have helped him if he had a history. So, a lot of questions when people start saying things like that. It's like, that was my first thought.
Yeah.
But he started texting the organization, telling him goodbye and things like that too. And it's like, my thing is like, if you knew he had a history of it, what was anybody doing? You know what I mean? That's the root of this question. It's like, what were you
Right.
doing to help him though?
Well, and another big part of it is, did they believe him? Because a lot of people think, oh, well, they're just talking.
Mm-hmm.
They're just trying to get attention, or something along that line of, well, maybe not. And it's
Yeah.
like, if somebody really comes to you and says, I'm contemplating suicide, you should really take them seriously, regardless of what their motives are, because you don't know. You don't live inside that person's head.
Mm-hmm.
You have no idea what they're going through, and you can assume all day long. And we already know what assume means.
You're
It's
not
like,
wrong. Listen, you're not wrong though, man.
yeah, just
And
start
then always
believing people.
afterwards, remember, always afterwards though, the thing I always said is, well, I wonder what they were thinking. You don't. Like
Yeah.
Daniel just said, you
Oh,
don't know.
I wish I would have known. I-
Yeah.
Well, you did.
They came to try to
you
talk to
know,
you and you didn't listen.
right. And sometimes we don't have that. Sometimes we don't have those signs, and sometimes it just happens. And, I think that there is a lot of victim blaming too that goes on with suicide. Like, well, why didn't they say anything? Well, maybe because they know or they felt like they would be ridiculed, stigmatized, belittled, questioned. A lot of people don't want to be questioned about their mental health. So they figure this is the easiest way out. I'm not going to say anything because of all of this that's going to happen. It's just going to make me feel worse.
Hmm.
You know, we really need to make it a safer place for people to talk. And that's why I started this podcast, is because people don't talk anymore. No one communicates. Everyone just talks at each other and
This is
doesn't.
how they communicate right here, and
Oh, I
it's
know. It's
terrible
the
because
phone.
text is hard sometimes, and I text
Yeah.
people all day. People text me all day. I leave voice messages for people. Leave voice clips to everybody and things like that too. And I'm just busy. Sometimes it's hard, but you know, I think when it comes to texting, a lot of times you can't tell the context of the conversation or the tone of people's
Right.
voice. If you're worried, check in on a friend. I mean, if you haven't heard from somebody in a while, look and see what they're up to. Like, you don't know what's going on. Like, I told Danielle a shit ton a minute before we hit record on this thing, and she was like, "No, hold up, what? Hold
Yeah.
on." I
Yeah.
mean, it's like you don't know what people deal with on a daily basis. There's some days people don't even know that I struggle so bad with my depression. Some days it's like a fucking black hole that just swallows you in. But I get up and do this show with people. I get on here and record, and people never even know because I don't tell people because the way they react is just weird because like they always want to say you're sorry and it's like, but I don't want you to say you're sorry. I just want you to listen to what I'm fucking saying. I don't need you to add anything else into it. And I mean, it may sound crude, but it's like that's just my views on it.
Right.
I just like I get it. I deal with a lot of things. I just don't want to hear it. I already feel like shit. I don't need you to tell me, oh, you feel sorry for me too, because then I feel bad about that too. And then my anxiety will kick in and go, oh well, now I'm making this person feel bad too.
Right.
And then it goes hand in hand and starts running off and goes, wee, all those kind of fun things,
Yeah. It's a vicious cycle.
it is, it really is. Because one feeds into the other, and then it's like an infinite loop of just all hell breaks loose, and then some days it's okay, other days it's worse, but it's hard though because we as men, we're not allowed to talk about our feelings because like, that's what society tells us we're not. All these women want you to do all these things for them, but then when you want to talk to them about your feelings, oh no, hell no, you can't talk to them because it's not okay to talk to them.
Yeah.
They don't want you to be sensitive. They want that strong man. They don't care if you have problems. But then look at how many of these strong guys are gone now. We lost a lot of them because of that. They don't wanna
Yeah.
talk because they're too prideful because you're making it that way for them, and then you wonder why. Oh, then that question like Daniel said, "Well, we don't know what they were thinking." We do know what they were thinking. They were gonna try and talk to you, but they sure as hell couldn't talk to you, and then us guys, for whatever reason, we just can't talk to each other, which I have a good friend I talk to all the time and tell him crazy shit all day, and, every time I could call this guy 2 o'clock in the morning, like, and it's just to say that, like, at 80% suicide rate for men, we got to fucking do something. And it's like, we're too stubborn because we listen to what society says. And
Yeah.
it's scary every time you meet somebody and you talk to them about it. And then you hear all these macho dudes saying all this crazy shit. It's like, I wonder how many of them are really struggling is what I really start to think. It's like, how many of you are actually really struggling but don't want to tell nobody?
Right. Because vulnerability is considered a weakness. And I feel like men take the biggest brunt of that.
Hmm.
As there's that stereotype that men are supposed to be strong and they're supposed to be, the workhorse and they're supposed to be the macho guy and, and you're not allowed to have feelings. Well, that's bullshit. Everybody has feelings. And if you can't express them, it does things to your body physically.
Hmm.
It manifests in physical ways. It manifests as dis-ease. And that in the long run is going to hurt you more than just talking about it. So why as a society are we not okay with people talking about their feelings, especially men?
Because think about it, if you go on social media and you were to put that out to you're talking about your feelings, think of all the negativity that would come in. Okay. So
Yeah.
it's scary because it's it being a guest by the name of Mr. Whiskey runs a podcast called Couple News. Okay, so we went into this topic a little bit. We were looking at young men as particular. He said that when the internet social media particularly was introduced, that the suicide rates in young men went up to like 20%. Now we got to think about
Wow.
that. Why is that? Because now you can bully them from so many different angles: Snapchat,
Mm,
Instagram, X, TikTok, all
yeah.
these sites. Like we had AOL. That was the only thing back in the day. AOL was the only way to reach somebody.
Yep.
And you had to know their fucking screen name, or go into one of these like really weird, awkward chat rooms, or you're saying age, sex, location, everybody, to figure out what the hell everybody's age was to know who you could even talk to.
Yep.
Any Nowadays, you have to
Yeah.
worry about going on fucking Roblox, which is meant for kids because there's some predator hiding in the background asking your kid weird questions, or going on Minecraft, and all these other things, Fortnite. Any of these games really in particular, things you get on, you have to worry about now what these people are going to say to your kid. Because I had an incident a few months ago where a kid my wife had told me, "Oh, hey, listen, this little boy I was playing with, this guy told him to go kill himself." So I literally went and messaged this guy and said, "Oh, so I heard you like to tell kids to go kill themselves. I think you feel that's really good." I started giving him a hard time, like, really, dude, what the hell is wrong with you that you're going to tell a little kid because he's not good at a game to go kill himself? Like, what if that little boy did? Because now you got to look at assisted suicide and the fact that you were the last person that told him to do that, because you sat there and ridiculed him because he's not great at a game that you shouldn't even been interacting with him, honestly. If he was a little kid, you should have muted him and just been done with it. Not sit there
Oh yeah.
screaming at him on the mic and telling him how much he sucks or he's a piece of, all those things. And,
Yeah.
the reference to a Call of Duty 2 lobby always gets brought up when a lot of conversations I have. Like, people that didn't grow up in the beginning of online gaming, like, wouldn't understand what it was like in those things, like the pure hatred that was being said in there, and the fucked up things we would say to each other. Oh my god, we you couldn't even imagine the things that we would say to each other in that room. We tell each
Yeah.
other to kill each other, go do this and that. We're gonna bang your mom. All these kind of weird things. All these things that get said nowadays. Everybody acts like that's bad. That was nothing compared to what those were like. And then it started instituting where they're now people are taking accountability. So now we're monitoring your chat parties to hear what you're talking about in these chat parties, even if you're not in the game itself. If you're on their network, they're checking. And everybody's like, "Oh, now you're invading our privacy." Well, we have to, because the conversations you're having are getting that bad that you're saying that crazy shit to people that you get banned. Your chat log gets banned, or things like that. And then people get mad about that too. Well, your chat gets banned because you say something wrong. I think, what was it? One guest I had said her husband was playing Battlefield. He said the word gay, and he got kicked off on there. Now, like, they're getting really testy now, because anything you say, anything reference anything, you're all cutting it off. But I mean, it's about time people start policing some of this shit, because the things that are getting said to these little
Yeah.
kids, it's just crazy.
Oh yeah. We see it in the news all the time.
Hmm.
I just read the story about I think he was 12. He was just bullied all the time and committed suicide because he just felt like he just didn't belong in the world. And that is so sad to me.
12 years
You
old.
know, these craphead entitled kids that sit behind a screen and a keyboard, it's like I really want to ask them, would you say this to my face? Would you say this to someone's face? It's so easy to say it behind a screen and type it into a keyboard and be a vicious little monster when you're not faced with the actual person.
Right. Exactly.
And the same goes for adults too. I can't even I hate social media for this reason, because there's so many, keyboard warriors out there
Hmm.
that would rather cut somebody down because they're hidden behind a screen than actually say something that could turn into a conversation.
Exactly.
You know, like, hey, I might not agree with you, but I respect your opinion. I respect your view. No, they just go and attack, attack, attack,
Hmm.
attack. That's all we do now is just attack. And it's no wonder our mental health as a collective sucks.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's not even the
Uh,
beginning of it. But that's why I started that school I was telling you about. I have a society I've created. It's called You Matter. And there's rules, okay? So no
I'm in it.
politics, no hate, none of that stuff, and things like that too. You know what I'm saying? And that's the idea, is just take back the internet from everybody, because that shit's just going on. And then, what was it? The video that really pissed me off was the one with the 16-year-old little girl who's getting ready for homecoming, and these grown ass men are making these vulgar comments. I'm like, that's
Oh,
somebody's
yeah.
daughter. You're making vulgar comments about, "Oh, you're dressed to look great on my floor." You're like fucking 6 years old or 50. It don't. You're disgusting. Like,
It's
that's a 6-year-old
disgusting.
kid, man. What the hell's wrong with you people?
Yeah, it's so disgusting. And I mean, when did it start where people feel they have the right to do this? Like,
Oh,
where did
the
this
minute
entitlement start?
think about it, the minute social media came out, nobody polices it though. Think about it. Facebook doesn't want to take responsibility for it. Nobody wants to take
True.
responsibility for anything that happens on their site. Oh, we got to police it. Is it your site? Yes. Okay, then you should be policing with the comments. These crazy things that people are coming on there saying. Yeah, you
Yeah.
can police what they're saying. They're saying anti-political, terroristic things. You're not saying. You're thinking this is okay. Huh? You don't
Yeah.
think you have to police this shit? Why do you think the police exist now? To try and keep law and order together for things, you know? And all these crazy things online get say like defund the police and things like that too. But okay, listen, when they did defund them and then you got a call for them, what are you going to do then? You know what I'm saying? Like all these great radical ideas you're coming up with, instead of us shutting them down, we continue to let them go because it's the hot button issue. People want to start any kind of controversy is a great thing for people because they all want to start, and or take for
Oh, it's yeah, hive mind. It's groupthink. Everybody wants to be a part of a tribe,
right?
and
Or
there's so much
the
tribalism going on.
find the what is it? Find the monster party. You know what I mean? Got to be that party looking for the monster. And it's people like that that just drive me nuts. And then the one, what is it? The one recently too was that Lily Tino person was on there talking about their genitalia in Disney World, and it was like, okay, so you're gonna continue to let this video go around, but you're not going to do anything about it. You got to take it down. Like you should have taken this thing down a long time ago. Why did you let it build steam? This is your website. You not know what's getting posted here. You can ban other people's chats for crazy comments, but then when this thing comes out, you just let it go because you know that it's getting views. At the same time, it's just like to me, it's just insane. It's disgusting at the same time because it's like you're allowing this person to continue to talk like this in the middle of Disneyland, which is meant for kids, and you're talking
Yeah.
about your genitalia about, oh, my corn dogs, and it's like, what the hell is wrong with you? Then, oh, I'm getting off the internet. I like these videos where he was posting, oh, I'm getting off the internet now because what was happening in the back scenes, he's getting sued for making these videos and things like that too, and he was like, oh, well, now I got to stop. Well, you should have never started, man. Like
Yeah.
it's just like, God, quit.
I know. Like, what is the mental capacity of these people? I'm
And
really curious. Like, in what world is this okay? Like, in what world did this become okay to do?
exactly.
And it's so disturbing. It is so disturbing the amount of just grossness and disgusting things that are roaming around the internet that people see, and people take that in, and it's starting to create this, you know, problem with people feeling like they have to be a certain way, they have to act a certain way, they have to say certain things or else they don't fit in. They have
Okay,
to
so good point there. When you're, I got something I want to share with you on that point there alone. You
sure.
have to be a certain way. Okay, so me and my ex Kate had gotten into this conversation. So to her, just because I run a mental health podcast, I'm supposed to be a doormat to people. So like, if somebody were to verbally attack me, I have to act a certain way just because I run a mental health podcast. No, listen, I'm Pete at the end of the day. You're not going to treat me like a doormat. I don't care what topic space I'm in. Yes, on my show, we discuss mental health, but at the same time, you're not going to come attack me and think that I'm not going to respond and defend myself. Just because I run a mental health podcast doesn't make me to be your little punching bag to say whatever you like to me because I'm not that person. I don't care. I will defend myself. But that comment got brought up. As soon as you said that, that's the first thing I was thinking of too. It's like, just because I'm in this space doesn't mean I don't understand the dynamics of the space. I get it. But at the same time, it's like you're not going to take advantage of me and act like I'm going to be a doormat for you to say whatever you like. And, just because I'm in this space, it's going to be tarnishing to my image. No, I'm just going to tell you that I'm not going to put up with it. That's all. That has no reflect on what I do on my show. My show is still real regardless. You could come in that room and tell me the craziest thing possible. And at the end of the day, I'm not judging you because I invited you to come into this space to talk about these things.
Yeah. Yeah. Are you talking about your wife, ex-wife, or
Yeah.
people on the podcast? Like, if people on the podcast
The
have
current
gotten,
ex-wife and I had that conversation recently because, I play online games and stuff, and she's like, "The things you say sometimes to people," I'm like, "We're just bantering back and forth." "Oh, well,
yeah,
people know you run a podcast, a mental health podcast," and they go, "Oh, you run he runs a mental health pod." What I do outside my podcast space is my own personal business. I don't have to be Pete versus anxiety 24/7. I am Pete
right.
the person at the end of the day. I enjoy hanging out, bantering with people, things like that too. Just because, I run a podcast, to her, I had to keep a certain profile. Like I have to act the same way all the time. She said, "Oh, it's your branding." My
Oh,
branding is Pete versus anxiety is Pete versus anxiety. What Pete does outside of Pete versus anxiety is what Pete does outside of Pete versus anxiety. That's it. These are two separate things. And I think
yeah,
it's the same thing when it comes to athletes too. A lot of people don't know how to separate them between, hey, this person you see on TV versus this person who has a personal life where they want privacy. And why do you think we don't see a lot of movie stars wandering around? A lot of them are introverts and things like that too, because like they're so famous they can't even go out to the store and get anything because you guys just want to run up to them and ask them 50 grand. But if they say no to an autograph, then they're an asshole because you ran up to them and started saying shit to them and started
yeah,
invading their privacy, then they're the bad person because it's just the same dynamic. It's like you don't hate on those people because they don't like you running up to them asking for autographs. Like they know they're famous. They don't need you to run up and invade their space. How about have a little respect and maybe approach them respectfully and go, hey, listen, I love what you do. Da, da, da. You know what I mean? Just like that. Hey, listen, can I? It's the way you approach things, really, is what it comes down to. You know what I mean? Like you can approach a lot of
yeah.
these people and ask them things. I'm sure a lot of them would love to give you an autograph or do a photo with you, but don't feel like you're invading when you invade their space, that they don't have a right to respond. It's the same thing as what she basically was trying to tell me I'm not allowed to do. It's like I get it where they come from now. I get it because it's a little ridiculous, but I think every time they tell a kid no, then they're monsters. Oh, they're monsters because they said no. No, it's just not the right time.
They're human. They're people. They need their space just like everybody else,
Exactly.
you know?
Exactly. No, I agree. I agree 100%. And then,
Yeah.
with mental health, it's interesting though, because like when you get into certain topics, like, there's so many different things. Like you get into like BPD is real interesting, but it runs with bipolar. A lot of times people are misdiagnosed in that case. A lot of people think it's
Mhm.
bipolar, but BPD is a way bigger thing, but they kind of line up, and a lot of people miss, and then it's, oh, I was misdiagnosed. Yeah, because what you have is hard to tell sometimes, like there's a woman I met, she had something called FND, functional neurological disorder. Okay. So for what she said in the UK, it takes like 15 to 20 years. Here in the States, it takes almost 20 years to diagnose. Like, don't think she's going through
Wow.
enough misdiagnosed? Well, because it's such an interesting thing because it presents as neurological, but it's really not. And
Hmm.
that's the thing, it's like it's hard to tell with a lot of these. It's like DID is such a tough one to do, which for everybody who doesn't know DID, the abbreviation, it used to be multiple personality disorder. A lot of those
Right.
people are very interesting in itself. I met a woman that said she interviewed 100 of them. She's writing a book that's coming out soon. And she said that in the 100 interviews, a lot of them said that they don't want to cure that, the different personalities. It's their way to protect themselves.
Right.
Like that movie Split, how everybody was sitting, one person sitting in the chair. It's proverbially that one person that shows up is in the chair, but that person's there to protect them. And a lot of them are just like, I've talked to somebody about this, but they'd freak out and they wouldn't know what to do. And I think
Right.
that's really what it comes down to is a lot of times you don't know what you're looking at. And that was the whole thing when I started this show was like, let's make the conversation real. Let's talk about this thing. Let's dive into these different things that people have and see like what these people like or what they experience because each person's experience is different. Like I experience things different than Danielle would experience it, and maybe we have similarities. That happens, but a lot of this stuff, like people just hear the name and just hear all the stigmatizing behind it. Schizophrenia, you have to hallucinate and see things. No, you don't. Technically, you don't. There's a lot of people I've interviewed that don't do that. I met a guy the other day though. He said he hallucinates, but it was only a little bit. He only saw but little black sphere type things. And it could go to extreme severities. And a lot of people may have run into somebody with extreme severity. But I mean, that's the great thing about this topic is that it's so broad that
Mhm.
you still are learning new things every day. Like you have to think when they originally, like the 90s to now, they have a whole different perspective
Oh,
on what they were like mental health wise. It was, they've changed a
yeah.
lot of things. They've learned a lot of new things. Hell, shell shock used to be PTSD used to be called shell shock, and they only thought military guys are the only ones that can get it. But little they know, everybody else can have the same condition too. And
Yep.
that's the great thing about Pete versus anxiety. So like every day, every time I hit click record, you don't know what this conversation is going to go. And we've had people come out. I had a guy come on the show tell everybody he was going to kill himself that morning. Like literally told everybody 30 minutes into this interview. I was like, oh my god,
Oh
what the
my
hell is
god.
going on? It was fucking crazy. Like I'm sitting there, but
Wow.
you'll never know. You'll never know I'm panicking because I'm sitting there and I'm talking to him and I'm watching him as he says it, and I'm just like, oh my god. And he doesn't really remember part of this conversation. This is the crazy part because when I had mentioned something to him about it, he goes, "What do you mean?" Like he had no recollection that he had went off into that tangent and talked about it. So it was so fascinating to see, like, and that was one of the big topics that really people really reacted to. And then for whatever reason, narcissism was another one that really just went off the rails. Like people that listen to me and another person who runs a podcast called You Have the Power, we had a conversation. They were telling me a lot of them were like 30 minutes in, I had to stop because this hit so close to home because so many people deal with the same situation, don't realize
W
that's what it is.
So, wait, people who were interviewing you had to stop, or people who were on your show,
People
like
that were
guests on your show?
listening, people that are listening to the episode that we did, the conversation between me and
Oh,
Darla,
gotcha.
they said they
Okay.
had to stop 30 minutes in because they're like, well, hold on, because it was hitting so close to home. Because
Got
a
it. Okay.
lot of people didn't know what to identify that as. Like, okay, well, maybe this is just me. And then realize that you all
Uh,
have similarities. And then it's like, well, hold on. Whoa, this is hitting home a little bit. I got to stop. And I've
well,
had
and
to do that too. So,
I feel like narcissism is thrown around a lot, and a lot of people don't
good
actually
name.
know the
Right.
true definition of a narcissist. The DSM has 9 characteristics of a narcissist, and you have to meet at least 5 of them to be diagnosed as a narcissist. Just because someone is an asshole doesn't make them a narcissist. And that is one of the things that I have always wanted to clear up. It's like, no, narcissism is a diagnosable personality
Hmm.
disorder. It's not anyone who just wants to be a jerk.
Yeah. No, I agree.
You know, it, and I'm so tired of people talking about being with a narcissistic abuser. It's like, well, okay, were they actually diagnosed? Or are you just assuming they're a narcissistic personality disorder?
Hmm.
It
I
is
think
a
what they're describing
personality
is they're describing
disorder.
somebody that has the personality traits of a narcissist. Like my ex of 15 years was very narcissistic in ways. Now, would I label her as a complete narcissist? Probably not, but she had a lot of personality things that fit into that category.
Oh yeah,
And
we all do.
I think it's a lot of what they're referring to. I think people just throw that word around a lot of times. Like you said, don't know what the hell the word even means. They call
Yeah.
people crazy and they don't realize what the thought of process or what it is, the effect that that's going to do to somebody. Like when you call somebody crazy in the comments, understand when you say this to somebody with a mental health issue, a lot of times you're not taking it the same way you're wanting them to take it. Oh, that's crazy. No, like they're going to think that you're literally calling them crazy, which they already know there's something wrong. They don't need your help to help them think they're crazier than they already are. They already know there's some shit's going down. And, depending on what severity and what diagnosis they have, you're talking about some pretty intense stuff that comes down the line, and things like that too, especially with PTSD, people that go into those moments. There's an interesting interview I'm trying to land right now. I haven't talked to her yet, but she tells me stories where she like goes completely blank, doesn't remember anything happens, and goes autopilot and just goes nuts. And I personally had to deal with it. My ex that I'm in the process of divorcing now, we had a situation where she went completely berserk and she just like went nuts. And I in the process, I actually hit her
Huh.
because when she came through the door, she swung, hit me in the face, and it was a flight or fight reaction. I swung back and hit her, which I felt horrible with because, like, it was reactive in the moment. Like a fist comes flying at you,
Right.
and it was like afterwards, she had no idea. She's like, "Why the hell is the house all messed up?" Because I'm fighting you off. You're trying to kill me at this point, literally too. Because she went to go get a knife out of the kitchen and was trying to
Uh,
stab me with it and shit. We were getting intense. Like I had to pin her down for a little bit to try and get her to calm down and come back, but she completely checked out. And people that don't understand how to deal with these situations think it's all fun and games, but it's really not, man. When you have to deal with that situation, it's not a fun time. That your loved one is not there. Like
right.
understand whatever they do in that moment, you can't hold that against them because you don't know what they don't even remember half the conversation. They'll be like, "Oh, I don't even remember that even happened," because they zone out and they completely check out completely and they
Yeah.
go into a whole autopilot mode and just go straight at it and you're not even sure what's going on. And it was the craziest thing I've had to deal with myself in my personal life, and I told a couple people about it, and I was like, I felt so bad, man. She just went off the rails. I punched her, and I felt so bad about it, and she's like, "What? I got a red mark here," and I explained to her what happened. I was like, "Well, you came to the door and swung at me, and I swung back out of just reactive moment. It wasn't like I intended to do it in the first place. I was trying to get you to calm down." And then all this other stuff got broken in the process. Stuff got knocked down and stuff like that. It was crazy. It was probably one of the scariest moments of my life because then she picked up that knife and I was like, "Oh hell no, this woman's checked out now." That's why I knew they was getting serious because she grabbed it and the look in her eyes, man, that sadistic look on her face was just like that. She's not there right now. Lights are
Yeah.
on, but nobody's home, man, and it was a
Yeah.
scary moment, it really was.
Wow. And she's not diagnosed with anything?
Oh, she's, what is she, bipolar 2, manic
Okay.
depressive, I believe is the other thing, and she's had a rough childhood, like, the things she's told me would turn most people's hair white.
Yeah.
Like, just from that little tidbit of things she's told me are just, like, it's just that insane of, like, stuff, but most people aren't ready to hear those kinda conversations because they'll be like, "Oh,
Right.
shit, this is too much for me, I gotta jump out of this thing quick."
Yeah. Yeah. When, you know, people start talking about mental health and there's only a small frame of reference for a lot of people. And they think bipolar disorder and they think, oh, murderous. It's like, well, no, there's varying degrees of
Mhm.
bipolar disorder. They think of schizophrenia and it's like, okay, there's varying degrees of schizophrenia. It's not just a label that you throw on somebody just because, they're like just like narcissism, there are actual different traits and everyone has.
Covert narcissism as well too, things that there's so many different things that fall in those categories. If you look at them, a lot of them, you dissect them, you'll see that there's like 3 different versions of narcissism, that you could fall into it category wise, maybe 4 if I'm not wrong. But the
Mhm.
point to your point is exactly that there is many different variations of what you're looking at, people are dealing with.
Right.
And we don't know. Like when you call somebody, say she's crazy, like, oh, your ex, oh, she's just crazy. But is she really though? Or what happened there? What context? Because
Yeah.
there's always 2 sides to every story. Now, what really happened in that conversation that made her crazy? Oh, she's just crazy, or she's stalking me, or this and that. Da, 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 da. It's like, okay, but what happened that led to these events, that you're calling this person crazy? Are they really crazy or did they have something that's wrong with them, I think that's the
Yeah.
labels are quick to come out when it comes to things. Oh, she's just crazy. Don't listen to her.
Yeah.
And it could be that someone did something to trigger that person and we don't know that they're dealing with something, and always the history, and then when mental health comes up, it's like, okay, well, we stop listening instantly. Like we can talk about everything else, but as soon as that topic comes up, oh well, we're done. Check it out. All right, we're done.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. So let's talk about you for a second.
Let's talk about
I
Pete.
know. Yeah, let's talk about Pete, the
Let's talk about
juggernaut.
Pete.
Mental health juggernaut.
I love it. Thanks, Tanya, by the
I
way. I
know.
love that name. She's the one that gave it to me right away.
I love it. That's perfect. Um, so I know we've talked about this in the past and you've had some stuff going on. When did your mental health journey start and what triggered that for you?
You know, my journey started right before I started this podcast. I had a moment where I just went completely nuts
Which
and
was
I
how
just
long
finally
ago?
had enough. Like I finally just had enough like dealing with it. Like, I deal with so many problems. I've always avoided it for so long. I never admitted I had an issue. And it's hard to admit that you have problems. Like when you get to that point and what had happened was that my wife and I at the time were discussing something and she said something to me and it just set me off and I just went off for no reason. Like there's no reason for me to react the way I did. And I was like, damn, I got to do something about this because at the rate I'm going, this person cares enough, at this moment that, something, I got to do something before I fuck it up like I fuck everything else up in life. And it's just one of those epiphany moments like, something hit me and was like, you know what? You got to do something now, man. It's time to do something now, or you're just going to be pretty much, you're going to be a mess the rest of your life. So then I started doing therapy. And then before I started this whole podcast, I did have another one, which I used to call Pete's Corner Store. So I've always wanted to start a podcast, like everybody says. So this one started off as like I was telling stories of things that I've dealt with and things I've done and things I've been through. Little I know that 735 downloads in the first month of this show I started recording that people really wanted to hear something I had to say. Well, we progressed as usual through different seasons. I added a co-host season 2. Things got a little risky at one point where I had to take a real step back and be like, hey, this is a little too much. But we made it through season 2. Okay. So season 3, we added another person and it got a little rocky there. So when we got to men's mental health is when it really started triggering to me that we need to talk more. As soon as I heard the suicide rates and that the area that I'm in is that I'm the second most likely person in the age range that I'm in to be the one of those that may commit suicide, besides being, obviously 70 above being the higher number one amount. it just something to me just said, "Hey, man, you gotta do something. You gotta bring this situation up." So, after that episode, we had recorded a few more, and I decided to take a break, and I was like, "You know what? I'm gonna refocus. I don't feel like this is going the way I wanna go. I wanna do something different." So, I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden, it just hit me. Pete versus anxiety just hit me because I was looking at a photo. Because if you remember the original logo, the picture where I'm, like, doing this goofy mannerism. So, my wife had stylized it for me, and I was just staring at it one day, just playing around names, and all of a sudden it just hit me, Pete versus anxiety. And it was like Pete versus an anxiety was in a whole nother font face because every day I battle my anxiety, and that's where it started on this whole journey thing. Now, can I tell you where I'm at now? I've just
Yeah.
learned a lot of things along the way. I'm at the point now where I'm having to, admit that I'm wrong to my own daughters who don't want anything to do with me right now, but are giving me a chance to say something. So that's the eternal struggle I'm dealing with currently. Is I after going through this whole show, meeting new people in season 2, in case anybody hasn't seen these episodes, if you watch the second episode, the one with me and Julian, we get deep into some shit. We get into real deep shit of things that I'm thinking at the time, and ever since that episode, I've been thinking, I'm going to set goals this year to do something different, and I told Danielle this off air. Okay, so this is what led up to it afterwards. Now, for where I'm now, is that I've had suicidal ideation over the last few weeks. I just had a down moment. My depression got the best of me. I came to my ex and I told her that I had thought about it. Okay. Now, anybody that's listening, do not do the fucking following, please God. Do not tell your loved one that comes to you and tells you, "Hey, make me the 13 reason why," and I was just like, you know what, that's where I was done. But ever since I hit recording the first one, other people I met, I met you, and I met upon other people. It's like I've started to learn more about myself. I changed as a person, and she didn't like that, like, and I found like, maybe I've got onto something because, I start discovering new things about myself. Every time I met somebody new, we had a different conversation about something, and I started taking away things in the conversations,
Yeah.
and it's been an interesting journey, and if I would have told you that I was at the point where I'd start admitting my faults of the things I've done and stuff, I would have never said I would done this before, and I wish I would have done it sooner, but I can't change the past. I could just take ownership for what I've done, So I'm in the process now of writing letters to my daughters to apologize for all the things I've done to them and the things I put them through, and it's horrible. Like the things I put them through is horrible. Like it's going to be a rough conversation to have, but it's like, it's time to admit that I was wrong because I've got new goals this year, things I want to do, and things like that. So it's been a fun journey. Would I changed it? No, because I love doing this show. It's great. I love it. I love meeting new people. I love making
Yeah.
this space. I did find out though an interesting factoid though is that my name appears more than most people's names do. Like I have a friend that runs a podcast that's got 90,000 followers on YouTube. Okay, I got 240. My name appears to come up more than her name comes up, and she has a bigger following than I do. So that
Huh.
means
Why
I'm
do you
obviously
think
doing
that
things.
is?
You know what? I'm not really sure. I think it's just the way that I interact with people, and people always seem to bring my name up. Is hey, listen, have you heard what he's doing? And it's interesting because all I'm doing is having a conversation. What I'm doing
Yeah.
is obviously a powerful conversation. But it made me laugh though. She said, "Why does your name always come up more than anybody else?" Mine and another guy named Jay Bush, who does one that's called Rock and Recovery. Now Jay, I had to talk into the podcasting space because at first he was a lot standoffish, but he loves it now. I think he's already at like 50 plus episodes now. I already did his show too with him, and things like that as well. But it was just like, obviously I'm having a conversation people want that people can't handle but that a lot of people say though, this space I'm creating is great because it's like, they're like, well, Pete's always understanding. He comes in, and things like that too. And anybody, you can look at a lot of these comments of people because they're on my website too, I
Yeah.
took the comments from my Podmatch profile and the comments that people leave and things like that. I put them up there so people can see. And you can see the most common thing that shows up is that Pete's easy to talk to. And you're right,
Mhm.
I am. I love talking.
You
I
are.
make it casual and things like that. And see, so I'm saying
Yeah.
it's just an easy conversation because we're not doing an interview. We're having a conversation, and I feel
Right.
like a conversation, you'll get more out of people versus you. I could drill questions you all day, but you're not really going to get deep, and things like that
Yeah.
too. So, it's been fun though.
Yeah. How old are your daughters?
16, 14, and 14. So my oldest one is actually working now, which is shocking to say. I actually have another daughter that was
Oh.
adopted. Not a lot of people know she was adopted when I was younger. I was 19 when I had her. She's about 18, 19 right around there now, and I'm gonna try and reconnect with her as well. I mean, her mom was right to keep her away from me. I'll be honest with you right now. I was a fucking horrible person. I really was.
Yeah.
I was not the person to be around. Really, I wasn't. I've had to deal with that. Several people come back to me and say, "Listen, you were not a pleasant person to be around, but now how you are now is a whole different person." And I'm like, "Yep, I know. Trust
Yeah.
me." And it doesn't make it any easier to hear it, but I mean, at the same time, I did these things, and now I have to take accountability for it. And I could sit here and make excuses all day why I did it, or I could just sit here and own up to it and just let it be what it is. So I've got an opportunity to try and rebuild a relationship with at least two of them. One of them, I'm not really sure what she feels right now, which is okay. I have to respect her boundaries and things like that too. The old Pete, he would just start texting him away. Me, I have the numbers. I haven't texted him because I'm going to prepare the statement, everything else. I'm going to let ChatGPT clean it up for me, things like that. I want to make sure I really put some time into this thought. I don't want to try and half-ass this apology to them because I feel like they're going to read through bullshit. They're just like me. They're going to read right through the bullshit. They're going to be like, no, I don't think so, Chief. Take a hike. But it's fun having girls. Okay. You learn the other side of the spectrum because when I had to raise them on my own, whew, I learned a lot of things along the way. It wasn't fun.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
But yeah, they're about like I said. I have one that I don't really tell much people about the adopted one, but what I mean, it's easier to tell people now. It's might as well. I've even considered doing an episode where I just clear out the closet, but I'm not sure how people are going to feel after that episode. It's going to get rough. I'll be honest with you. The things I've done, the things I've said, it's more of a taking accountability kind of thing. So I am
Mhm.
playing with the idea. Melissa Hepner, the host of Emotionally Unavailable, is offered her to help me out to kind of get through it. So
Mhm.
I'm still kind of debating about it right now. It's still up in the air, but I'm thinking about just going for it. Just going to clear out the closet. It's really going to be called that, cleaning out the closet. Just telling everybody everything now,
Yeah.
because you're gonna see like a whole different side of things I've done. Like there's things I count for. And I put a social media post out already, and somebody was like, what was it? This weird cryptic message you put out? I'm like, it's not a cryptic message. It was an apology to someone who deserved it a long time ago. I got really drunk one night and decided to go online, and this guy was just trying to be my friend, and I verbally abused this poor guy. Like, this guy did not deserve what he got. Like, I had those tall boys, okay?
Mhm.
I shotgunned 6 of them in about 20 minutes, okay?
Good lord.
Yep. Okay. So I got so drunk. I was not even sure what I said to this guy, but I verbally just abused the guy, and I was just and all he was trying to do is be my friend. He knew I was dealing with a lot of things. And it wasn't an excuse for what I did to the poor guy, and everything like that. And there's more stuff like that to come out that I've just done that
Yeah.
it's hard, man. But I mean, at the same time, it's just doing this show is just getting easier. That like it's becoming very clear and apparent that I need to do something now before it becomes a what if, like repair that gap with my mom, because like if I don't do it now, when am I going to do it? Yeah, she abandoned me when I was younger, but at the same time, it's like I could sit here and dwell on it all fucking day, or I can get over it and just, and get over it on my end and at least try and make something out of it. That way I don't have to sit there and live with the regret of, well, what if I would have done something differently kind of thing.
Yeah. So the podcast has really been like your therapy.
Yeah, a lot. Yeah. I've shared a lot with a lot of people. I've met a lot of really interesting people along the way. A lot of people, we've gotten real deep into me. A lot of people ask about me too. I think Vanessa the Vivacious was the first person ever asked, and she runs a podcast called Manatee 2.0. That was interesting though, because after we finished the interview, she was like, "Well, Pete, we didn't talk about you." I'm like, "Yeah, we don't talk about Pete much, because I wasn't really ready to talk about myself. But recently, it's been a lot easier to come out and talk about it. I think the most vulnerable I got was with what is it, the ride along with a guy named Andy. We got deep. Like it was a 2 hour long conversation, and Andy was asking some deep ass questions too. So in case
Yeah.
anybody wants to really hear some really interesting things about me, it gets really interesting there. The next one will be coming out. I think is Looking Through the Glass. I'm not sure when that one comes out, but the ladies there, they're actually here in the Dallas Fort Worth area with me, and we got real deep in that conversation too. That's the first time I had told anybody about me getting divorced. Some people knew about it, and like few people in the very in a close circle, people knew about what's going on, but they've been really supportive about the whole thing. I've told them some wild shit, and they've been there for me the whole time, which is really great. And my best advice to you guys is to find those people you can have space with like that. It's great to have the support system. Having multiple people on that support system is great too, because just in case one person doesn't answer, you you have other people you can reach out to, and
Yeah.
it's great to have, honestly. But yeah, it's been very therapeutic. But I've also learned more things about myself, things like that too. I discovered different things as I meet these people and they start asking me questions and we start getting deeper into different topics. We are going to touch on human design this season, if not next season for sure. We're going to touch into the Chinese zodiac signs because I did a star chart reading. That was fun too, actually. We did that. We got real deep into that one too. We started looking at where my birth chart was, like all the where the planets lined and everything else based on
Yeah.
the astrological houses. So we got really deep into that conversation. And podcasting actually showed up as one of my things in one of the, I think it's 11th or the 12th house. I can't. It's right in that area, the 10th, 11th, or 12th. One of those three houses it fell in, which was funny because I was like, that's really interesting to see. And
Yeah.
you learn a lot more about me there too, and things like that too. But it was really cool because I didn't tell her anything before we did the interview. We started talking, and she was just pulling things out that I'd never told people. I was just shocked. I was like, "Damn, this is pretty crazy." So it's been fun, like I said, and we're still going, man. We still are going.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure. So, in our last few minutes here, if you had one piece of advice to give to someone who may be facing some mental health stuff and they want to get help, but they don't know where to go or how to go about it, what would you say?
My best advice to you is to, check out the healthhub.co for sure. Like I said, Lisa Sugarman, it could be the starting path where you go, or go talk to a therapist, any of them. Just pick one and go talk to them and, see if you can figure out what it is you're dealing with. Don't let your diagnosis own you. For the love of God, please don't be one of those people that go, well,
Yeah.
I'm too anxiety ridden. No, stop doing that. Don't give it that power. I mean, and talk about it. If you feel like you have a problem, you can call 988. They're not just there for the suicide effect of anything. You can call them, reach out, ask them for help. A lot of your employers actually offer, sessions like that too. You can call them and start to figure out exactly what it is you maybe the symptoms of things you're dealing with. And maybe, find somebody that specializes in that. You don't have to stay with your therapist that you originally mean if you don't like them, and for the love of God, please don't stay with somebody because you feel bad. They know exactly how this process works, okay? They'll tell you more before you even get a chance to. Like, if this doesn't work out or you feel like we're not meshing, you can leave at any time. It is not a relationship. They
Yeah.
understand exactly what it is. You just don't fit their style of it. And there's so many different people out there. There's so many different things. If talk therapy isn't for you, I've got a Rolodex of people that could do different things, all these different kind of things, coaches, psychedelics, all that kind of stuff. If some of that stuff interests you, reach out, let me know, like I said, but for love of God, just talk more about your mental health, especially men. Like, let's stop being a bunch of bitches
Yeah.
and just talk about it, guys. Okay. Let's stop giving each other hell about these things and open our
Yeah.
fucking mouths because 80% is fucking ridiculous. Like, what do you need? 82% to start powering into this thing? Because it's crazy. We're going out at a faster rate than we're reproducing. And fun fact, we make up 50% of the population. So if 80% of us are leaving and there's 50% of the population, just do the math there. We're in your friend
Yeah.
circle, 4 of your friends are probably going to be the next people that are going to commit suicide. And what could have you done? You could open your mouths and talked about a subject, or say you had a problem like, hey, listen, I'm dealing with these issues. Don't be scared to ask for help. Like, I don't know how many times I have to tell you that. For the love of God, go get help if you need it. Don't be scared. We all were, okay? We all are in the beginning. You don't know what's going
Hmm.
on. If you feel like you may have a mental health issue, check it out. Do something for the love of God. I don't know how many times I have to tell
Yeah.
you. I'm not sitting here all day talking about this issue just because I like to talk about it. I'm just fucking you. I do love talking about it.
You do love talking about it.
But it's like I can't say enough times, man. Just get some help. Like, it's okay not to be okay. Like, as always say, you always don't ask how your day is, ask how your mental health is. And it's real because think about it. If you ask somebody how you're doing, you could say I'm good and lie to people all day. But if you say to somebody, hey, are you really okay? Are you doing good? How's your mental health? These people have to think about what you just said to them and think real hard about that question and go, oh, well, damn, okay. And then be prepared to listen. It's a two-way road.
Yeah.
If you're going to ask, you better be ready to listen. And if you ever need anything, you could always reach out to me. I'm always available. Pete vs. Anxiety Podcast.com is a great resource to go to. It links you to my community and things like that too. If you feel like, you're tired of the internet like the rest of us are, come join the You Matter Society.
Yep.
We're trying to rebuild the internet into a better place for mental health.
And I will put all of those links in the show notes as well. So, like all of the things that you mentioned, I'll be sure to put in the show notes. And yeah, I mean, I think it's a great conversation for men to start having because I feel like the more that men start talking about their feelings and being vulnerable with other men, then the safer environment it's going to be. And the
Exactly.
more men will start understanding, you know what, we can do this. This is okay. And
Or
other
more
people
people
need to
understand that
be,
they're not alone. I think that's a real big thing. The big
yeah,
takeaway too is that you're not alone. We
yeah.
all deal with things.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there is no island. We're all in some form or another of, you know, mental health
Hmm.
something going on.
Exactly.
We're all dealing with something. And it's just those of us who are willing to talk about it versus not willing to talk about it.
Yep, of course. Listen, also,
So,
guys, if you want to be a guest on the show, go to the website. Everything's there. There's two ways to reach out to me. I get tons of emails, like Danielle's got 1,000 in hers. If I don't respond to you right away, please don't take it as I'm not looking at your emails. I am. I try to get back to everybody as fast as I can. And you can listen to the show, Spotify, all the way down to Pandora Radio. I'm pretty much everywhere possible. YouTube, Rumble. I hit everything. So, however you like to digest your podcast, So there's where to find me, though.
and you are at Pete versus anxiety. Pete. So it's at
I'm
Pete underscore versus underscore anxiety podcast.
pretty much everywhere you look. I'm everywhere,
Okay.
And like I said, if you can't get a hold of me, let Danielle know. She'll reach out to me too. But I'm usually,
Yep.
I'm always around doing something. So, but guys, like I said, let's stop being bitches and let's talk more about our mental health. We really need to. We need to make t-shirts like that. I think we should.
Stop being a bitch. Talk about your mental health. I love it. All right. Well, Pete, thank you so much. Such great, valuable insight and advice today. I'm so grateful that you're my first guest on my podcast.
I'm so happy for you. Like I said, I'm so excited to
Thank
see where this
you.
goes for you. I'm so
Oh,
glad you
me too.
invited me. I'm so glad I was number one. It's great when I see a lot of you guys going out there branching out and things like that too. And so I'm excited to see where this goes for you. I think you're gonna have a lot of fun doing this. I know I had doing mine so far. And like I said, we'll have to check back in again. We'll have to have you come back on and we'll update, see how the
Oh, yeah.
podcast is going, things like that too. You'll come back and visit us.
Oh, yeah.
We'll have to have a big meetup. I'm planning big things this year, guys. I'm planning big things, so get ready. So watch out.
Stay tuned. Watch both of our spaces. So Inspired Action Wellness and Pete versus Anxiety.
Exactly.
Big things are happening. Thank you. Thank you so
Not
much
a
for being
problem.
here.
I so gratefully
Yeah.
appreciate it. I appreciate you so much for inviting me. Like I said, I love being number one.
Yeah.
That's okay. Now I can brag about like I was there first.
All right. We'll see you in the next episode.